Uh, uh, uh. Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports is Ordered. And now, from the great state of New Jerusalem, born in Texas, raised in
You're,
VA, do not,
you're,
do not bring feelings to a fact fight.
don't do it.
Mr. Logical. And then, of course, your unorthodox statistician going left so much that you thought I was southpaw. What's up, Shakur? Watch out for the left. Watch out for the hook. There might be a tank coming near you soon.
Listen to your corner and watch for the hook.
I am 2-5. And tonight, we're going to continue our preview season. Keeping it in the East, but this time we're going to do it AFC style. But of course, we're going to get this thing started with get it off my chest. But before I get started, like, review, subscribe, share, do all the free things, do all the good things, tell grandma, put it up. Sports Reports is ordered. Starts now. So, I was doing some thinking today. You know, I wasn't going to bore y'all with more conference realignment. So, you know, I decided to go somewhere else with it. And I was thinking, right? You know, Boston Celtics, made me think of Mr. Logical's boy. What's his name? Noah? The world champions of what?
Oh, Noah Lyles?
Yeah, Noah Lyles talking about world champions of what? You know, and it got me to thinking, you know, the NBA champions are called world champions. They got called out by a European team and their coach the other day. And it got me to thinking, why is the United States still in the Stone Age? You know, like, because I love the Premier League, you know, and their teams step out for the Champions League. Last year, I came on here talking about how I hate and I still absolutely despise the in-season tournament, now known as the NBA Emiratis Cup or the Emiratis NBA Cup, one or the other. You know, still mid either way. But the point being,
It's a terrible name.
you know, I was like, why can't we get that? And on a bigger scale, why can't we get relegation? Like, I know that the G League is probably not in position to send teams up to the NBA right now, even though you could throw them in the free agency pool. I don't know who's going to sign with them. But I was thinking about college football, you know, like teams like Vanderbilt, you know, just leeching money off the SEC. You know what I'm saying? When there's a Memphis out here, when there's a Tulane out here, you got Wake Forest and, you know, teams like this, Syracuse, leeching off the ACC when there's teams like South Florida out here. You know, so when I look at the NBA, I want my Champions League style tournament against Barcelona, AC Milan, you know, Real Madrid. I want that. And I also want, no, I'm not going to make a Bronny James joke about the South Bay Lakers coming up into the league. but you know, like, have relegation. Y'all tired of the Wizards and the Pistons? Send them down to the G League and bring up the Fort Wayne Ants or something. You know what I'm saying? Bring them into the free agency pool. Shake it up a little bit. Join the rest of the world in the modern world. That's all I asked for.
Yeah, you asking for a lot. It ain't gonna happen. I like your thought though.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like too much money tied in, and with the I think with the Europeans, it was pretty dope with the relegation and stuff like that. But they're like 19 leagues deep
Right.
in England. It's like literally dudes who work at your local restaurant, they're in like a literal league that's in the pipeline with the professional league.
Like them dudes
And
that was playing against Michael Jordan.
like the sim now the plumbers were playing against Bob Cousy, like that, firefighters and plumbers.
Yeah.
But like in England, they have like just tiered leagues, and I think it's legit double digits. You know, 12 or 13 leagues deep.
Mhm.
There's like Class F league, Class
Yeah, I
H
know they
league,
got
stuff
like
like
League
that. So
One, League Two, so on and
yeah,
so
so
forth.
they
Yeah.
just have like an abundance of just soccer players, and I think you can do that because the crop of soccer talent is very deep because it's a worldwide sport where you
Mhm.
have talent from corner to corner. We don't have talent from corner to corner that you could bring up and make a whole team compete with the other 29 NBA teams. Say
That ain't
you
what I
drop four,
heard.
say you drop four teams, right? The four worst teams in the NBA get relegated to the G League, and you bring up four. The four you bring up will not be anywhere near as good as the four you sent down. So you're just gonna be sending them right back down
Well,
anyway because
no,
the talent pool isn't deep
exactly.
enough.
I mean, that's going to start out that way, but everything starts from something. Like you have to have the vision and the idea and build upon to expand that idea. Like if we did it right now, like yeah, these teams will get their head blown off. But you know what I mean? Like, sorry for the imagery, but you know what I mean. But like 10 years, 15 years, 20 years from now, you might have something legit. Because all I hear about is how all the players are so much more talented now. There's NBA level players right now that aren't in the NBA. So I mean, you start from somewhere. Not saying that this is the final product, but you start from somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I feel you. I like the like embracing new ideas instead of trying to just squash them immediately. Uh, but like I said, I just think they have like more of an infrastructure that would allow
Right,
for
right,
such a
right.
thing. And the NBA is just, I think the only thing they can really do to try to get these teams to not be bottom feeders is to not automatically allow them an opportunity to get the best player coming in.
Mhm.
I think that is probably the best thing that they could do is say, you know what? Yeah, you guys are the bottom 10 teams in the league. But we're gonna make you play for I think all 30 teams, they should have some kind of stat, some kind of metrics, like a BCS kind of metric that they did.
Right.
It says this your minutes with your starters on the floor, this is what your rating was, and then you can get like your pick based off of that. Something else, something besides just having the worst record, because you get a guy in like Alex Sarr is gonna go to the Wizards. They didn't put anything else really around him, and they're a perennially bad team, so they're not going to get any good free agents. And now with the whole propensity of guys just joining up, like Paul George could have gone to Washington and made them better with this number two overall pick, but he's like, nah, I'm gonna just go to Philly. You know what I mean? So it's like that's the kind of thing that you're never going to be able to get over.
Right.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I like thinking outside the box. But I also I like the fact that you put your face behind this statement. You came out public forum and say, you know what, this is what I think it would be good for the NBA, good, bad, or indifferent. Whether I agree with it or anybody else agrees with it, you came out here, you put your face, your name on it, you stamped
Ten
it.
toes down.
All of them, all the little piggies that went to the market, all down. I'm sick of these anonymous NFL execs every preseason making all of these assumptions about guys or saying like behind the, off the record, Sauce Gardner is the most overrated player in the league. Or I saw another one today that said Kyle Hamilton doesn't fit with any other team in the NFL. Josh Allen is the most overrated quarterback. All these guys can say all of this stuff, but nobody gets on YouTube, gets on their phone, calls up Rich Eisen. He has guests on the show all the time. Cam and Mace, they have guests on the show all the time. Hell, $1 million worth of game. They're getting a lot of guests to pivot. A lot of these shows having guests. Come out there with your chest and say it. Listen, we didn't want to draft Sauce Gardner because we thought he was overrated. So we went with, I don't know, Tiny Archibald, whoever, whatever person you went with. It's like stand out there and say it. I'm just using a generic nickname. Sauce Gardner, Tiny Archibald. I just thought it was like I'd go with a cool little nickname. Shout out to Tiny Archibald. But that's the thing, is like every single year this happens, and every single year we as fans sit back and watch what these GMs actually do publicly. And it's like we watched the San Francisco 49ers put their best two wide receivers on the trading block after losing the Super Bowl by 3 points. And now one of them doesn't even want to show up to camp. Is that a smart move? So what you doing publicly just looks idiotic. We watched the Atlanta Falcons pay a guy damn near $200 million and draft his replacement. Hope the one guy doesn't get hurt, the other guy doesn't have to play. That's like literally what they said out loud. We've watched the Cowboys not have a real GM. So all these anonymous execs talking about all these things they would have done behind the curtain. We're seeing what you guys are doing publicly, and it's like, listen, you're not really standing on a lot of credibility as is. It's a lot of teams in the NFL that are just falling apart every single year. New England went from sugar to shit because one guy left. One guy left. I get it. There's going to be a drop off between Tom Brady and everybody else, but it's like you went from Tom Brady in the playoffs, barely getting you guys empty. I think they still won 12 games that year, to probably not having 12 total wins since he's left.
Well, I know
a little bit more than 12 total wins.
Mac Jones made the playoffs year one.
Okay, so Mac Jones made it, but one game he only threw 3 passes, and they ran the ball 48 times. So they didn't really get the ball running. And even then, they didn't have a GM for the draft. They had the owner's son make the picks or tell the GM what pick to make before, like he used as an audition to get hired. So all these other GMs that are saying it's anonymous stuff is like, yo, what is your position? And what did you do with your team that you go in? Like, if you're the Jets executive and you get up there and say, I think this player is overrated, and this is why we went and I got Aaron Rodgers, because we're going to prove that Josh Allen is overrated and Aaron Rodgers is going to take over the division, then say that. Don't say it off the record. Because either way, you can still get fired. If the dude underperforms, you still will get fired. So you might as well enjoy your job while you have it.
You know what I'm saying? Do the Mike Tannenbaum.
Mike Tannenbaum be out here just making up fancy football trades that don't make
sense. He
sense.
don't even care, bro. Like,
I'm
my
like,
man
bro,
said, I ain't even trying to get back to the league.
He was like, yo, if I was Dallas, I'd trade CeeDee Lamb and Dak to get the number 3 pick and draft JJ McCarthy. What? Like, it'd be something that ridiculous. Like, you didn't have to do half that stuff to get the piece you wanted. But once again, he got fired. And every year during the draft, he proves why he didn't have a job. And I think that's why these guys try to stay anonymous. But I'm just sick of the list. I'm sick of people arguing over the list because it doesn't make any sense. You're literally you're publicly arguing an opinion of a person who wouldn't put their name or face on it. I wouldn't even get any credibility. That's why I'm not even reading off where I'm getting this information from, because I don't even want the website to get credibility for sharing it. I think just the idea of it is crap. Stand on it, 10 toes, all you little piggies, put them down and say, listen, I think my corner is 10 times better than Sauce Gardner. I think my safety is a all-pro safety and Kyle Hamilton is an imitation of, tacklers. Whatever it is you got to say. Stand on it. Don't go to some reporter and have a little drink and smoke at the bar and come up with this cockamamie list of all the guys you feel are overrated.
All right. You know what I'm saying? There you have it, folks. Mr. Logical has spoken.
Goddamn right.
You know what I'm saying? But he ain't done yet, because we got to talk about the AFC East.
You're
circling the wagons. So, my first takeaway when I looked at the AFC East was, man, I wouldn't be shocked if Miami started out 6-0, 7-0, something along those lines. Like, looking at their schedule, right? They got Jacksonville at home, Buffalo at home. So tough games, but at home. They go to Seattle, host Tennessee, go to New England, bye week, go to Indianapolis, host Arizona before they go to Buffalo in week 9. So as I was going down the AFC East, I was like, I think I just got to pick Miami by default, because they might start out with a 2-game lead that they never relinquish at some point.
I mean, it bodes well for Miami because you have, so obviously September games are still going to be warm. Mm-hmm. Jacksonville wasn't a playoff team, but you come right back, week 2 game, short week though.
Mm-hmm.
Granted it's at home. Miami's fans don't really show that much support. It's not like they have a home field advantage, short of it's warm. And I believe Tua's record, like in games where it's like less than 40 degrees, he doesn't win. Like if it's 45 degrees or cooler at kickoff, he hasn't won one of those games. Like, so luckily you're going to get Buffalo week 2, but you get them on a short week. So it depends on how they come out week 1. If they're rolling, maybe they get the rest starters, no one gets injured. And now you're coming into Miami knowing that last year you started slow being Buffalo and you went and beat Miami to win the division, sending Miami to Kansas City to play in that game that was like the real field was like negative 21.
People losing
So
their
literally
fingers and
frostbite, losing
legs.
fingers and toes.
Yeah.
So Seattle could be tough. We don't know with their new coaching staff. I like Tennessee's confidence at the quarterback position. I just don't know if it translates to production. Maybe like having this all season, getting Calvin really in, getting Tony Pollard in, losing Derrick Henry, but just having that. That's a huge piece. But maybe, just like I said, I don't think his confidence is going to waver. Big, strong kid. He looks like the prototypical quarterback that people want now. He looks like another version of Josh Allen. So if
And
he
he
can get
has a
confident,
victory over the Miami Dolphins. Last year, Monday Night Football,
the
Tyreek
comeback
Hill got
victory.
hurt.
Tua, Mike McDaniel, I think they have a great combination when it's rolling. But he's one of those quarterbacks, if you get him off his spot, I know a lot, and I hear when they say stuff like he doesn't like anyone around his feet. Well, no quarterback likes anyone around their feet.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just literally that's where they get their throwing power from. Like I don't want you at my feet when I'm trying to throw a deep fucking post route. Like that's the dumbest thing ever. But some guys can get off their spot and reset and still get a good throw. I'm not sure Tua is that kind of quarterback to where the pocket's collapsing, he slides, resets because he doesn't have the arm strength to throw a guy open when it's just kind of in a scramble. He may be some guys coming back to the ball, Jalen Waddle's coming back, but a lot of Jalen Waddle routes are go routes. Tyreek Hill's running deep.
So speaking of that, if it were you, if you're sitting in the GM seat, you're the owner, what kind of contract are you offering to
I'm offering the Daniel Jones contract.
Ooh, that's nasty.
I mean, do you want 160 million or want nothing?
I mean, I don't know. He just led the league in touchdowns last year.
If you get him off his spot in 44-degree weather, you can't win. So why am I like? Let's keep it a beat. They were 1-6 against playoff.
Because you know why? Because it's the NFL, and who can you get that's better than Tua Tagovailoa?
Yeah, but I'm not a GM yet. Give me 8 years. As of right now, if I had the job as a GM, I'd offer him that deal. And then let them haggle, and maybe I'll go up to 42 million a year. And if you only want to make it 3 years, cool. Then I'm only embedded to you for 120 million versus the 275 that Jacksonville is paying Trevor Lawrence, or I think 265 that Buffalo. But Buffalo at 265 over 5 years with Josh Allen. But I'm not just going to be locked in. You got to, at some point, you got to earn. You can't just get it by proxy. Like every dude in the NBA 6'9" doesn't have. Kevin Durant's contract.
This is my problem. Like, I don't want to disrespect Tua, right? Like, I don't want to be disrespectful, right? But their offense is entering doesn't matter who's back there mode, because as I look around the offense, they basically could send a team to the Olympics right now and win the relays. They got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle.
Top 10 in relays for sure.
They
worldwide relays, legitimately, they could be top 10. They have guys like that.
Raheem Mostert, Devin Achane. They just added Jalen Wright from Tennessee this year, who ran a 4.38 at the combine. Malik Washington, my guy from UVA that we talked about pre-draft, that ran like a 4.4. And lo and behold, if all else fails, they got Odell Beckham. And it's funny, right? Because Odell Beckham is obviously not the player that he was, say, 3 years ago. But did you know that last season he averaged his career high yards per catch? I didn't know that.
How many catches?
I mean, he didn't have a lot of catches, but
probably about 30.
16.1 yards per catch. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Like, so when I look at Miami, it's one of those things where, like, it's time to shit or get off the pot. right? Like I'm not even trying to disrespect, like I said, but you haven't won a playoff game. Last year was the first playoff game that Tua started. Because
Yeah.
the year before he was injured and they didn't make the playoffs under Flores.
I think
So
something like 24 years. So now all the preseason meetings are starting at 24 past the hour. True. It's like they haven't won a playoff game in 24 years. So your morning meeting starts at 7:24. Quarterback meeting starts at
and it
8:24. Running back.
obviously doesn't work.
That's supposed to be their motivation going this year.
Yeah, it
Like
still
I
ain't
said,
working. But I think
you just have you're limited at quarterback. No matter how they slice it, no matter how his stats look, when everything is all good, certain guys thrive. Certain guys thrive when everything's all good. When they're at home, they have the big running back, they have all the defensive pieces intact. And I'm not saying that you have to make up for, like, everyone isn't a force multiplier from the quarterback position. I'm not saying that that's a an expectation you have to have for 17 games. But when you're having that back and forth game and it's cold or it's windy or it's snowing or it's raining, that limits him without the defense making any adjustment. If the weather in and of itself can drop your quarterback from a 90 rating to an 80 before the game starts, it's like, as a defense, now I know I'm ramping it up because I know he can't throw in the wind. Most quarterbacks can't. It's tough. But when
right.
you don't have a strong arm, that limits you. The rain. You play your team plays in Miami, so that's whole narrative of a warm weather team, break dances,
Gotta get
Christmas
home
tree.
field advantage, right?
You got to get home field advantage, but you got to get that by playing. Because if you look at it, their luck. I mean, October in Gillette is that's their first game in what looks like a cold area. You're more likely going to get a decent game.
Yeah, but it's still not going to be necessarily,
unless you get like a freak cold storm early October, which is rare.
So maybe November 3rd, maybe November 3rd at Buffalo.
November 3rd at Buffalo, then you're in LA, then you're in a dome, and then you're at home, and then you're at Lambeau November 28th
for a night game.
For a night game, so that's a loss. You're at home for the Jets in December as well. You play in Texas, that's a dome. Then you play in California, Cleveland, week 17. You're in Cleveland. So as of right now, they got 1, 2. We'll give it 3, 4 potential cold games.
In their last 2 years, they're 4-5 in the month of December. But they do have, they have something that you would think would help them out in this type of weather. They have the NFL rushing touchdown leader.
Didn't have that a lot of yards though.
Didn't have a lot of yards, right?
He had like 1,032, but they just kept giving the ball in the red zone.
And it's because him and A-Chain are game breakers, versus being not necessarily Derrick Henry, but just being the type of back that's going to lean on you for a few yards. Everything they do is spectacular. Like when Miami wins, they win spectacularly. They scored 70 on Denver last year. When Miami loses, they lose spectacularly. They gave up 56 to the Ravens. They gave up 48 to the Bills last year at one point. So Miami is the true definition of feast or famine. Now, what hurts Miami for me, even though I am picking them to win the division, but it's based off a schedule. But what hurts them for me is all the losses. Brandon Jones is in Denver now. You had Bradley Chubb get hurt ACL. It was either
late in the year.
It was the next to last game of the season. You had Jalen Phillips,
and they were getting blown out in that game. That was the game against the Ravens. He shouldn't even been on the field.
Yeah, 56-19. You had just lost my thought. Jalen Phillips, week 12 against the Jets. He goes out for the year, late in the year, like you're saying. Christian Wilkins, I believe, is gone.
Yep, he's in Las Vegas now.
Yeah, he's in Las Vegas. You got Shaq Barrett. You brought him in. So maybe he'll help hold it down. You still got Jalen Ramsey. Xavier Howard's gone. And he got hurt. As well towards the end of the year. So
defensive coordinator.
Yeah. So Miami is going to have to old school Indianapolis Colt this thing.
They're gonna have to be like the greatest show on turf. but if their offensive line is solid, and if Tua, he's accurate, he can hit those timing routes,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, the speed they have is
I
ridiculous.
need Jalen
But
Waddle to earn his contract.
how many weeks in a row? Like for instance, if we had to guess what defense is going to give him trouble, maybe Buffalo on that short week, playing in Seattle.
I mean, New England's going to give him trouble because all New England has is defense.
Yeah, so if they go the first, if they're if they get if they go 3-1 in the first 4 games, I'm assuming 4-1. I think they're going to beat New England.
If they're anything
If they're
worse than
4-1
5-2, if they're anything worse than 5-2,
at any
they
point,
they should be
then they're
ashamed
in
of
trouble.
themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they should be 4-1 at a minimum going into the bye. But that's all predicated on, can you sustain this offense? Because it seems that the Chiefs figured out how to stop it in the game in Germany and in the playoff game. The game in Germany was neutral, it was in the dome, so it was just the weather.
21-0.
They just pressed Tyreek Hill, and they just were on him. Because if it's a timing thing, because it's a timing situation with Tua, because he can't reload and reset and just throw.
But that's the good news. That's
That
the good news.
45-yard ball to the opposite side. Like he can't. But if you jam, because we saw it in the playoff game, they were just pushing Tyreek Hill out of bounds.
But that's the good
Brandon
news.
was cold as hell.
That's the good news, though. The Chiefs had Snead and McDuffie. A lot of NFL teams don't have that skill level at both corners. You know what I mean? So like even the Jets, right? They got Sauce Gardner over there. The rest of the Jets secondary is pretty good.
I think he was a hit. Like I think he was a rookie.
Yeah, they had I can't think of his name right now. I'll get to you in a second. But like still, like I don't know if they're like both of them combined make up that skill level.
Yeah, true. I give you that. I like I said, I like Miami. I like Mike McDaniel. I like him and Tua's relationship. I just think that going into the game, any kind of weather condition.
Oh yeah, DJ Reed.
Yeah, your quarterback is at a disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
Deeper. I mean, I'm pretty sure if you look at his deep throw stats, like, his throws over 25 yards, is this accurate? Yeah. But that's probably on time throws. If the route is called to go deep and he can't get it off because there's pressure in his face, he doesn't even try to like throw that. Whereas Josh Allen will roll maybe sometimes too much, but he'll throw that deep post route. Like, what?
Even Aaron Rodgers, healthy.
Yeah.
Will manipulate the pocket to keep the play alive.
Yeah, to get that. You know what? I think I can get this guy open if I just slide and hold it, and I just throw it here, 45 yards down the field versus here where it could have been. Like if I get him, if he gets here and looks for the ball, and I get it here and he keeps running, but you got to be able to throw it across the field the way Mahomes and Derek Carr and a lot of these other guys with these strong arm guys that can do it. If Tua can't get to that third deep read, he's like I said, you get 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds to make your decision in the NFL.
Yeah. So
if you can't get that quick drag route, then do you lose a couple of games because they can't get the offense going in the first couple of drives, and Jacksonville gets up 14-0 on them?
Yeah. So Miami, they have to hit the ground running. Weeks 4 through 8. At New England, bye week at Indianapolis, home for Arizona. Right. For me, they got to go 4-0 in those games that I just mentioned. Right, because when I look at the rest of their schedule, let's go to weeks 13 through 16. Like you mentioned, at Lambeau, the Jets at Houston,
but they got the Jets at home,
and then they get San Francisco at home. You know what I mean? So like that stretch right there has to be a 2-2 minimum. Like they can't go 1-3 in that stretch, even though those are really good teams.
Yeah, they can't lose any. They can't lose any game that they are more talented. Like they can't slip up and lose a game to the Raiders.
They can't.
Like that. They can't lose. They can't lose a game to the Raiders. And
They can't lose to Cleveland. They can't lose to Arizona.
they got to go 2-0 against New England, like, because you just can't afford to have a loss, like, because that would be a bad loss. Maybe the Raiders get better, but as of right now, the Raiders are probably the only team in the NFL that doesn't have like a definitive bona fide starting quarterback. Gardner Minshew has been a journeyman, and then Aiden O'Connell is, an average to below average quarterback
Mm-hmm.
per his stats and his performance. So yeah, they can't afford a bad loss. Some
Well,
teams can overcome a bad loss.
so the good news for the Dolphins is, as I look at the Jets schedule, and I get down to say after their bye week. So I'm gonna give them the bye week, right? Their bye week is in week 12. Week 13, they play Seattle at home. I'll give them that, right? But then the rest of the year at Miami, at Jacksonville, Rams, at Buffalo, Miami. So that's part of the reason why I picked Miami to win the division is, because one, we don't even know what Aaron Rodgers is going to look like, coming off the Achilles. And they start out week 1 with San Francisco at San
Correct.
Francisco. So, I'm already chalking that up as an L. You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? So
yeah, San Francisco does look like I said, we were talking about this before. I got Receiver from Netflix playing in the background. And I'm looking at the highlights from the San Francisco season last year, and it's like, how did y'all not win the Super Bowl? Like, it just, and so
somebody thought they were the smartest dude in the room.
I think, and the Greenlaw injury hurt them as well.
Yeah, that hurt as well. Yeah.
So if you're the Jets, I think the problem as we transition from Miami to the Jets, I know I want to sound optimistic about some of these teams. I try to give them credit. Like, I know offering 2 of like 4 years, 160 sounds like a slight, but it's like you can't put 30% of your cap, or 29% of your cap. I think like 55 million is somewhere around like 27 to 28% of the cap.
You still got to get Waddle to earn that 30 million you just gave him.
You gave Waddle his money, I believe, probably at the end of this year. Tyreek is probably up for an extension because they normally do a 1 year out. And if he comes back with another 1,600 yards, you got to pay. He's going to want that $34-35 million as well. So that's the thing. But I think they have a talented team. Their schedule does lay out for them to be the winners of the AFC East. So I think I'm leaning towards that way. Just before we break down Buffalo, and I'll kind of give my decision there.
Right.
But with the Jets, I think the problem with the Jets is that they're going to run into this media created expectation that they have somehow embodied, like this media expectation, like this virus, and then the team caught it. And now the team and the fans are all thinking like, oh, we had 7 wins with Zach Wilson, an average quarterback play. Mm-hmm. We should get 11 with Aaron Rodgers. And it's like, okay, yeah, you probably should improve quarterback play. But you have an old offensive line. You have a defensive end you traded for that's still, I believe, is still in Japan eating sushi, climbing Mount.
Hassan Reddick out there playing Ronin.
So you have your starting quarterback, and I'm not saying he's a distraction, but he is becoming a little bit more eccentric than he has been. And I don't know if it's just he was suppressing it in Green Bay, or the wins, we weren't really noticing it, like that RELAX, relax. Like maybe that was like the transition where he's just ayahuasca. Maybe he's post-COVID, he started thinking about the world differently, started thinking politics. But he's coming off as the most arrogant guy in the room,
mm-hmm.
to the point where he said this, I can't wait to play with Devontae again. So you're telling me that you already believe that your current wide receiver room
ain't good enough.
Is missing a piece. At a minimum, missing a piece. So who's the weak link? The guy you made them pay to come in and Lazard, or Garrett Wilson, who's been there for a while? He already wears 17. Is you going to just bring in
offensive
Devontae?
Rookie of the Year?
It's like, so, and you haven't even been in the battle with these guys yet. Like, you're literally walking around off mystique and aura, But you break it down, your head coach does not seem like he is built for these big moments. He seems to be stressed all the time.
I mean, he was
He didn't
playing
look.
Zach Wilson, man.
He didn't. He didn't look. I'm saying he didn't look
Tim White.
the way he looked on the sideline in San Francisco before he got hired by the Jets. It just felt. It feels like it's a different guy, and it feels like he's acting like a different guy, like he's acting like a leader. Like we've all worked for people like that. Like some people are just naturally leaders. They come over there, they give you good advice. If you're having a conversation, they give you a question. You can tell the active back and forth. Like I'm a leader, but I'm doing it organically. Then you have some people that come up and it's like, listen, this is what I need from you. And they like give you the whole, like, as a blah, 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 as a Master Sergeant United States Air Force, you need to be this, you need to be this. Like they give you like this impromptu speech when you were just chilling at your desk. I'm like, dog, why are you doing this? This is phony. Like you came over here just to give this speech. Me and you weren't even having a conversation. When he talks to the media, I feel as if he's in this battle with the media. People are like, oh, the New York media is so tough. Really, if they're so tough, how come all of their teams seem to be mediocre every single year and not win anything? They're not that goddamn tough. Let's keep it on it. Like they're just New Yorkers. And I get it. Like, New York is the center of the world, but the media is not that tough on them. The team is average. And then they had a guy who refused to learn anything to play quarterback, refused to improve. At some point, you got to stop making mistakes that we saw you make your first week in the league when you're in week 90. A couple of years in, you're still making the same bad throws. Like, okay, that's on you. So Nathaniel Hackett wasn't a good head coach. He's in there because he's Aaron Rodgers guy. I know I'm going on this rant, and I apologize for taking so much time, but it's just I don't understand how people are. I don't know what they're using as evidence to support this expectation of growth and wins.
They just have a quarterback that won a Super Bowl many moons ago. We're sitting on 13 years now since that Super Bowl.
Yeah, it was a
And
staff sergeant.
and we still view Aaron Rodgers as if he's this Messiah type figure that's going to come through and just save New York City. And they went out and got Javon Kinlaw. I like that pickup. If Aaron Rodgers does get hurt this year, they went and got Tyrod Taylor. So a little better than Zach Wilson, well, I ain't gonna say a little better, but you get the point. They went out and got your boy, Mike, I can't stay on the field, Williams. And, he's supposed to shore up the receiver room. So that's the problem right there, is that they have a bunch of receivers. Not only Aaron Rodgers got hurt last year, but he doesn't have any chemistry with any of these guys other than Lazard. Randall Cobb's not there anymore.
Retired, joined the SEC network.
Yeah, they do have my guy out of Iowa State, Breece Hall, coming off the injury last year, 994 yards, even though his yards per carry went from 5.8 to 4.5. I expect that to improve this year because he was getting 4.5 yards. Like, to your point, they expect Aaron Rodgers to come in and get these wins because they won this amount of games with Zach Wilson. If Breece Hall can average 4.5 yards with Zach Wilson at quarterback, you got to figure that goes up somewhat with a threat at quarterback. So the Jets are a team, that you can like. If people are, I don't mean like in the sense of being a contender, but if you believe that they're a playoff team, I can rock with that.
But that's what I'm saying. I think the virus that has infected the Florham Park Jets, that's where their headquarters is. They believe they are a Super Bowl contending team right now, and I don't see it.
Yeah,
I don't see it.
You got to remember too, they had a top 10 defense, number 1 against the pass.
And going back to when Aaron Rodgers was in Green Bay, I'm not even going to count the one game with the Jets. He hasn't thrown for over 300 yards in 23 games.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a season and a half that he hasn't. Like, this is the some arguably the greatest quarterback of all time. Once again, there's not that much evidence to support that. It just looks the part.
But what's
23 games and that you haven't gone over 300 yards?
What's going to get,
because he doesn't battle. He doesn't, like, guys who throw, like, I think Dak probably threw for like 300 or 400 yards in that playoff loss because he stays in the game and tries to get people back into the game and tries to win games. Aaron Rodgers, once you're down, it's a wrap.
Well, to your point, what's going to get the Jets in trouble is because they start out with San Francisco on the road, but then, their easiest part of the schedule follows at Tennessee, against New England, against Denver, against Minnesota. So you got 4 straight games potentially
Minnesota
against rookie quarterbacks.
And it's in England.
Yep. You got all these games against potential, depending on if New England starts Drake May or not. We'll see if Denver's going to start Bo Nix or not. But you're looking at potentially 4 straight games against rookie quarterbacks. Or
week 7 is the first game they'll face potentially with a quarterback that's played more than 3 seasons.
Well, you got week 6 against Buffalo. Week 6 against Buffalo.
Oh, week 6 against Buffalo. So yeah.
Yeah, but that's what I was just about to say. But after that, so this is where they're going to get in trouble because they're going to go 4-1, and then they're going to go into Monday night against Buffalo. They're going to get their shit kicked in
at home,
and then they're going to go to Pittsburgh the next week, go to New England, then they come back for Houston. That's a rough little stretch. And then when you look at the closeout, like I mentioned before, those last 5 games of the season. So the Jets are teetering anywhere from 8-9 to, if they get lucky, you might be looking at 11-6. You know what I mean? But I don't expect
lot of luck. That's
what I'm saying. When I look at Miami, right? Just off of talent, just looking at talent, not even factoring in Miami's schedule. I'm like, hey, I could see Miami winning 12 games. I could see Miami winning 11 games just based off of their talent. When I look at the Jets, I'm like, y'all want to win 10 games? You better be forcing a hell of a lot of turnovers.
Yeah. For their skill position players, so 3 skill position players, Breece Hall, Mike Williams, Aaron Rodgers. We'll give Breece Hall a year because he came off the ACL, but like he's good now.
Right.
And then you have Tyron Smith. So that's 4 pieces
got Morgan
right
Moses.
There. That's 4 pieces right there that if you miss, if Aaron misses any time, or if Tyron Smith has lost too many steps from Dallas, and now you can't get those deep shots. And like I said, Aaron Rodgers is not going to throw it up and say, Lazar's down there somewhere or Garrett's down there somewhere. Don't forget,
he's 41 and he's coming off of this Achilles, so he's lost a step when it comes to mobility and being able to take off.
So it's going to be a lot of rollouts and throw it out of bounds because I'm not throwing any interceptions because I don't want to mess up my historical touchdown interception ratio. that's the stat that they would track. There's a lot of weird stats that people track with Aaron Rodgers that I haven't gotten from by other quarterbacks, but it was something like how many throwaways he had like over the head of wide receivers that went out of bounds that weren't grounding because like you just throw it away, you don't give the receiver a chance. He had like the highest percentage of those kind of throws.
And then of course there's that fourth quarter stat.
The fourth quarter stat, if he's down by 7 points or more any point in the fourth quarters, his record is like sub 500. Like
I know at one point I lost track of it, but at one point it was 9-26.
Yeah, so that's going to be tough for a team that, like I said, defensively were stout for the last couple of years. Got them the 14 wins that they did earn the last 2 years. That's going to be tough if you don't try to stay on the field and send the defense back out there and they got to get a stop to get you the ball back so you can get a better play call from Nat Hackett. Because we saw that he couldn't, let's keep it a beat. Like, they have so many glaring flaws of guys. Like, the last bit of history you have for so many of these guys being Nat, Hackett, Robert Saleh, Aaron Rodgers, Tyron Smith, Mike, like so many of these guys, the last memory we have of them is not being up for the moment.
And then, of course, just not being available. The good news for DJ Reed is that he gets to play against Josh Allen twice, because we remember Buffalo opening up the season last year on Monday Night Football, losing that game. Right? Yep, losing that game when Aaron Rodgers got injured. This is what Buffalo does, saying they get me all happy, they get me all excited. And then they pre-cum, and they got nothing. They got nothing left in the tank. They got nothing left in the tank. You know what I'm saying? They give you 3 minutes of thrill,
Pause.
and then they got nothing left. You know what I'm saying? That's the problem with the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen is the same dude that led the league in total touchdowns last year, but led the league in interceptions. You know,
Teach the fan.
this team was 5-6 before they had to win out to avoid the sub-zero temperatures in Arrowhead. You know what I mean? To just lose to the Chiefs at home when they finally got them at home in the playoffs.
Yeah, that would have been a tough game as a Bills wide receiver to try to catch a Josh Allen pass in that weather.
Yeah, we saw what Stephon Diggs did at home.
Mahomes is throwing nothing but drag routes.
Yeah.
He was like, hey, I know the weather. We've been practicing in this all week. Let's go ahead and hit these dump.
You know what
Josh
the problem,
Allen was going to throw it hard.
You know what the problem with Buffalo is this year?
They got a whole new wide receiving core.
No, that's not even the problem.
That's not the problem.
The problem is you gotta look at the schedule because you know because you know why? You know why? Because I try to do this, right? Every team that we preview, I try to pick their easy stretch and their hardest stretch, right? But when you look at Buffalo's schedule, I'm gonna just start at week 1, right? So like they should beat Arizona at home, but then they go to Miami, Jacksonville, at Baltimore and Houston back to back, and then at the Jets. So like 3 weeks in a row at Baltimore, at Houston, at the Jets, right? Then they get their easy stretch, which is only 2 games, Tennessee and Seattle. Then they play Miami again. So then starting week 11, they go Kansas City at home, bye week, San Francisco at home, at the Rams, at Detroit. Who the hell made this schedule?
It's a first place schedule, man.
Fuck that. Like that's the SEC schedule. They gave Buffalo the SEC schedule.
It is tough. It's very tough. That they might be a better team than Miami, and I think they would probably be a better in the playoffs. I think if Kansas City had to play Miami again in this playoff run, I think Kansas City would have a definitive advantage because I just feel like their physicality and how they play up front with their defensive line, the linebacker play, and then the physicality of the corners. I think they would have an advantage over Miami because, like I said, the way they were slowing up the wide receivers slows up Tua. You slow up the Buffalo wide receivers, and Josh Allen just steps back. He just slides backwards, and still can throw you a 60-yard dot.
He out here playing,
and he'll try it. Yeah, and he'll try it. Like he'll, okay, your normal 7-step drop is like, okay, cool. They got Chase locked up. Okay, boom. They got MVS locked up. All right, Samuel's gonna get open. I'll just point.
Samuel ain't gonna be on the field.
Or Dawson Knox will get open. Like one of these guys, like, and he can just point. Like he can direct it, granted with his left hand because it had a ball in his right hand.
Our guy.
Oh, Keon Coleman?
Keon Coleman, baby.
I like Keon Coleman. But, like I said, he could just point, like, hey, he could just point him in a direction and fire it off there.
Yeah.
I think you can get a big playoff against Kansas City with that. I don't know if Miami has that big play capability. So I think that's the piece. The schedule, having a first place schedule is going to be bothersome because they're going to have to play a lot of rough stretches, but they're also playing teams who are also playing first place schedules. So San Francisco is going to have a tough go of it. Detroit's going to have a tough run. They're all going to have like these tough runs. So they're going to be in that SEC area where it's like Georgia, Alabama, LSU, and Ole Miss are all playing tough games. It just depends on, can you win that game 42-39 if it comes down to that? Or can you win that game 20-17 if it comes down to that?
Yeah, and I do like Khalil Shakir. He should get some more snaps this year in the slot. But Buffalo lost Dane Jackson. Last year was Von Miller's first season without a sack. He played 12 games, so it's not as if he only played 3 or 4.
He got something like a few $1 million a tackle.
Yeah,
I think the stat broke down to where like his paycheck, he got like $1 million a tackle that he made.
They lost Dane Jackson. They were 3rd in defensive points per game. So that was their calling card. 7th against the pass. They did bring in your guy, Matt Collins. So they got him as well. Somebody got to get cut, right? That's too many going. That's too.
Yes, yeah, it's too many guys.
Yeah,
Chase, and Hollins are not like in a negative sense, but they're the same player. Like they're
right.
6'4", 6'5", big body guys. Is like I don't know if you have that many routes for guys that big who are like overly fast. It's not like they're 6'5" and they both run 4.3s. It's not like they're two DK Metcalf. So like they're big bodies. Uh MVS with the drops, that could be one thing. I think Keon Coleman, I think his personality and the fact that he's going to be raw talent, I think that gets him on the field. And he like I said, he's saying he's a big guy. He's like 6'4".
Mm-hmm.
So it's like unless you have some kind of goal line package where you're just going to throw fade routes for first, second, and third down, and that's going to be your fade package. That's because those are big bodies. And like I say, you got Dawson Knox and Kincaid. Like it's like
Yeah.
you have a lot of bodies and you have a quarterback that throws a lot of picks. You might want to maybe swap out a couple of these wide receivers and get a couple more guys that can carry the ball.
But the good news is they have the fourth leading rusher from last season. They did run more once Joe Brady took over after Ken Dorsey got fired. So that gives me a little hope that that might slow down some of Josh Allen's interceptions. But of course, with a quarterback like him, they
He's
just
going to
have
do
those
that.
moments. They just have
He's
those
gonna
moments.
he's gonna
Everything's
do
going
that,
well.
and I'm
Yeah,
gonna try to get
it's
it.
just like when you chilling with your girl, right? Everything's quiet, everything's peaceful, and then all of a sudden she just
You
noticed
open
that
up,
you ain't take the trash out. You know what I
or
mean? Or like,
you,
just
you
something
open
that'll
up,
ruin the whole day.
you open up Twitter and something pop up. Like,
Yeah, that's
what are you
that's
looking at
Josh
that
Allen
for?
right there. The
Yeah,
gift that keeps giving. Buffalo also lost Trey White. Matt Milano, got injured late last season. So even the defense is going to be, a little shaky to start out with, probably, but on the bench, you brought up guys that could, other guys that could run the ball. Hey, they did bring in Frank Gore Jr., so we'll see what happens there.
I
But
mean, he has an excellent teacher. We're talking about lineage.
yeah, but they lost their starting center. So at this point, Josh Allen has to make a transition. As much as we like to see the bazooka, you know what I mean? He may have to go West Coast style, hitch routes, digs,
That's
like
that's gonna be
it's gonna be
tough.
tough for him. But like with the receivers that he has, because I don't think Keon Coleman is going to necessarily blow by people. Like he's quick for his size, but he's not like Randy Moss or something. You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? Like all these guys like Curtis Samuel, these are gimmicks. These are gadget guys that are going to catch passes out of the slot and try to turn 3 yards into 14. So I don't know who's on the roster because even when you look at Claypool and Hollins, like you were talking about,
They're the same guy.
Hollins is somewhat of a deep threat at times, but Claypool's not. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
they're pretty much they are, like I said, they're just big bodies. Claypool has shown recently that I'm not sure if he fits in locker rooms because you would have thought that he would have been able to stay in Pittsburgh, but I think with the post and AB situation, they were like, "Look, we got to get this diva out of here." He's like the quintessential diva wide receiver, and it's like, yo, at some point, some OG has to get in your ear and tell you, like, listen, you're gonna attitude your way out of the league to the point where it's like, if you look around on your own team, Mac Hollins, Keon Coleman, and you are all 6'4", 6'5", big targets. They don't need you if your attitude is going to be bigger than your production.
Right.
So it could be a situation. It might be addition by subtraction if he gets cut. I like him.
Please.
I just think that it could be a situation where he doesn't. He just lifts right out because of attitude.
And,
Josh Allen's not going to throw it short though. Like we can look at Mahomes and what Mahomes did over the last couple of years without having Tyreek. And he made the adjustment and he hit Kelsey and he was hitting the drag routes and occasionally he would throw deep, but Josh
please,
Allen
Josh Allen.
is
Please, Josh
100
Allen.
miles an hour and on the Autobahn all day long.
Please, Josh Allen, don't get hurt. Like, you know who the backup is, right?
Probably Nathan Peterman or something like that.
The one and only world famous Mitch Trubisky.
Mitch, yo, honestly, Mitch's playing style
Go die on that hill.
would like adopting some of the traits of Trubisky's playing style. Because what Josh Allen does when he gets out of the pocket, sometimes he could just check it down to the tight end and let him get the tap, get hit by the safety while he's fighting for 8 or 9 yards. Josh sometimes would just hit that and like it's 3rd and 8, I'm running, and now he's lowering his shoulder into a guy, and he might not even get the first down. So Trubisky is not going like if Trubisky gets out of the pocket, he's going to throw it short. I'm not shout out to Fleazy. I'm not advocating for Mitchell Trubisky. What I'm advocating for is understand Josh is your 6'5", 235. Trubisky might run like 6'2", 215. When you're outside the pocket, just think, you know what? Maybe I'm not required to run this safety over. Maybe I throw it to the 6'5" tight end that's standing there wide open at 7 yards, and maybe he can battle and get to 2 yards and 39s converted. Don't just run into these situations. Third quarter, 3rd and 9, man, throw that little quick pass like Trubisky would, and if it doesn't get, go to the sideline, figure out how you can get the first down again. But don't be out here trying to run like you. Cam Newton has a podcast, and he's like 32 years old or so. Cam Newton's had a podcast for like last couple of years, and he was a good quarterback. He kept doing what Josh Allen is doing, like just running into people. You gotta stop.
So before we move on, let me ask you this question. So I know we disagreed on this at the end of the season because I felt that Buffalo reached that point of no return. Like Sean McDermott, I love Sean McDermott, but I just feel like things run their course. You disagreed with that. What's the record that puts that on the table?
Like they're in the that
Or
depends. That
okay,
depends on how they view this year. If they view, you know, I know everyone has been coming out saying Stephon Diggs was a great teammate, and all these other guys were great teammates.
I don't believe it.
Maybe there's more friction in the locker room with some of the leaders on the team and the head coach.
Okay,
You figure you cut that out. I don't want to say cancer because I don't want discredit these men who work hard. You cut out the confrontation,
hmm
and you're starting somewhere in the middle ground. Like, you know what? We are a good team. We have few players that want to prove themselves. Maybe we could be a great team. We've we have this expectation if we win our division, we get a home playoff game. If they have like that centered kind of balanced approach mentally, and it translates on the field, and they go 10-7, I think he's good to go. If it's a disastrous season where like no one's hurt, it's just bad stretch after bad stretch, then I think it puts the firing back on the table. But as long as they don't have the Jets mindset, because I know last year they hung a picture of the Lombardi Trophy in the practice facility. I don't think they're doing that this year. I think because NFL teams, like I've shared this post with a lot of people, my group. I shared a post about stacking first downs. It was this guy it was like an inspirational quote. It's like a lot of people think life is about getting a touchdown. Like, no, it's about stacking first downs. Get your first downs, eventually you're gonna get a touchdown. If Buffalo goes back to the mindset of one game at a time, win our division, get a home, earn a home playoff game, play well in the home, use it our advantage of the swirling winds, the lake effect, snow, whatever advantage they have for their home playoff games, and they just build off of that, I think they'll be fine. I think the Jets and some of these other teams, probably the 49ers, maybe even Miami, and some other teams, the Cowboys, I think some of these teams are thinking Super Bowl or bust, and you haven't ironed out the personalities. And I think so. If Buffalo can maintain that, like, all right, we lost some players, but we have other talent in here. We have our franchise quarterback. Let's keep him healthy. Let's keep him upright. Let's run the ball. Josh, stop trying to run safeties over because Andrew Luck stopped his last couple of years taking on tacklers. He was doing it his first couple of years where he was always injured.
I
and then
know, but that's
he ended up
different.
getting
He
hurt
had
anyway.
to. He had
I'm
to.
talking about while he was scrambling. While
He
he
was
was
fighting for
scrambling,
his life.
like while he was scrambling out on the sideline, instead of just going out of bounds, he was putting his shoulder in the guys. And then I noticed his last couple of years he was deliberately going out of bounds because he was always rehabbing. He still ended up getting hurt and then retiring anyway. But Josh, save your body. Let these other guys carry the football and let them run in the safeties 1 or 2 times a game versus you running the ball 7 times and trying to run safeties and linebackers over all game long.
All right, simple question. The Patriots going to win more than 6 games? They going to win 6 games?
No. Just because I don't think they have a dynamic group. Like, I don't think any group of the 32 total teams, I'm not sure any GM would trade his linebacker core for New England's. I know not one team would trade their wide receiver core for New England's. Their quarterback situation, maybe Denver would think that that's a good situation to experiment with Jacoby and Drake May. Maybe the Raiders, but for the most part, I don't think any other GM would be like, yo, let's trade quarterbacks, let's trade offensive lines. So I think they are 32 out of 32. And almost every spot on the field. I know, like, mathematically they might have a better defense, but when you have an offense that's going to be as bad as they are this year, there's only so much defense can do. There's only so much energy.
Well, even with the defense, the defense is obviously going to be their calling card. The defense has obviously been their calling card. They got people like Kyle Duggar, who I love, but I would imagine that there has to be some decline with Belichick gone now. You know what I mean? Even if Jared Mayo comes in and keeps a lot of the same principles and tries to do the Belichickian defense, I imagine it's still not going to work the same without the puppet master. So with that being said, I think Drake May is better than a lot of the critics do. I'm not saying that he's going to be top 10 in 5 years or whatever the case may be, but I don't think he's a bum the way that a lot of people do. The problem is, as you said, there's not much.
The Hodge thing was harsh.
They don't have the infrastructure around him, which is a part of why Mac Jones didn't do so well. I mean, Mac Jones went through defensive coordinators calling offensive plays. A
lot of that was. I think a lot of that was the decision making of the GM Belichick. I think Belichick's a great coach, and I think it's the concept of having, seasoned veteran coaches coaching up your team makes sense. I don't think everybody has to go out and hire Sean McVay's and the new hot young coordinator. I just think Bill O'Brien was the wrong OG to bring in because that game in Germany, like, I mean, if you guys can think about it, like I said, I wish we had like a producer, but one day in a couple of years, we'll have a producer that can kind of put these videos up as I mentioned them. Look at the video of Bill O'Brien yelling at Mac Jones after Mac threw the pick in the game against the Colts in Germany. I've yelled at my sons, and they didn't look as sad as Mac Jones did as a grown man being yelled at by another grown man on live TV. It's like you could just see all confidence left his body. And I think that's where it backfired. So I think they should have a better output this year, but with the lack of I don't know where you get points from. Where do you get points? You need a good defense allows 17 points. If your defense is allowing 16.9, 17 points, something like that, you're probably a top 4 or 5 defense in the league.
But the Patriots can't score more than 14.
Can you get 18 points? Like, where do you get 18 points from?
Yeah, because I mean, you got Ramondre Stevenson, running the ball. Zeke's gone now. They picked up my guy in the draft, Jalen Polk, like him a lot. They got Demario Douglas. I think they brought Juju back. So when you look at it across the board, you're like, if this was the NBA, we would be saying New England's holding out for Cooper Flag. You know what I mean? So like,
I don't know what they're doing.
I don't know who they're holding out for. You know what I mean? They got Drake May this year, so it's not like they're playing the Shador sweepstakes or the Carson Beck sweepstakes. So I have no idea what's going on in Foxborough, you know. And when I look at it, this is a team that comes from pedigree, right? You know, I mean, Tom Brady, 6 Super Bowls, you know, like you just feel as though this is a franchise that has some sort of pride in, you know, we are the Patriots. I just don't know what they are at this point. You know, they were fifth in what the defense last year was fifth in points per. To your point, they were fifth in points per drive, even though they had the worst starting position in the league on defense. You know, so that's how good their defense. Oh, I forgot they went out and got KJ Osborne. That was the big receiver that they brought in this year. KJ Osborne. Everybody's shaking their space boots. You know, we don't know if Drake May is even going to start.
I don't know where you get 14 points from with this offense.
You know, but like I don't know, because I mean, looking at their schedule, like it's hard. Like, because even teams like, say, week 9 and 10, they go to Tennessee and to Chicago. Now, granted, both of those are road games. But like in my mind, I'm like, okay, you got to feel that you can compete with Tennessee. You got to feel that you compete with Chicago. But then I remembered Tennessee went out and got Snead from Kansas City. So you still can't throw the ball on them. You know, like the Bears, you know, won 7 games last year. Their defense stepped it up. They were top 3 in rushing in the league. So it's like, I don't even know. Do teams just keep New England on the field? Like, do they just run the ball and just say, like, let's hold the ball and give your team the ball with 3 minutes left and you got to score quickly?
I think what's going to happen is they're going to see a lot of 8-man boxes, single high safety stuff, and then maybe a disguise something when you're sick of just trying to run the ball in the 8-man boxes.
So do you start Drake May? Or do you go with the vet?
I start Drake May. Appreciate it, Q. Shout out to my group chat stepping up. You know what I'm saying? Iron sharpening iron. So I start Drake May. And I just, every time he makes a mistake, I just have Jacoby teach him on the sideline. And if it gets to the point where we're down 37-6, then take him out, coach him up, start him again the next week. If I start him week 1, I'm starting him all the way through the season.
You got to
keep him healthy, keep him upright, because you can't look at your team and be like, we're a quarterback away from being successful. What you are is a groomed quarterback away from being successful. So he might have to, like I said, iron sharpen iron. He might have to just get his ass kicked.
So let me ask you this way. What's the difference in their record if Jacoby Brissett starts every game and if Drake May starts every game? What's the difference in their record?
5-12 and 2-15.
I was thinking more like Jacoby.
He's going to get you 7. He's going to get you 6 or 7 wins. With you got to keep in mind, he's not like he's one of these guys that's slicing and dicing up.
I was thinking 6. And I was thinking that Drake May could get you 4. Like, so to me, it's just not. I mean, you said 3 games. I said 2 games. So I mean, really, it's non-negotiable. Just play the rookie. You know, get him some reps. See how he reacts to adversity. Because I don't know, like everybody, like there's been this argument that I've been having most off season, where it's, should you sit your rookie quarterback? Should you start the rookie quarterback? And I think each situation is just different and unique. You know, so like even though that's my answer for Drake May, I may not feel that way about, say, Bo Nix, because I just wasn't sold on Bo Nix in the first place. You know what I mean? And I don't know how I feel about a rookie playing. I mean, we'll get to the AFC West at some point, but I don't know how I feel about a rookie playing for Sean Payton with the way he was treating Russell Wilson running around here last year.
I don't think anybody should play for Sean Payton, and we'll definitely get to that in the AFC West. But as far as like the rookie starting, New England situation, the rookie starts. The Minnesota situation, start Sam Darnold. Denver, I would start Zach Wilson. Because Jacoby Brissett isn't looked at as a starter. He wasn't drafted to be a starter. He wasn't looked at as a starter. So he's never really been in this role year in and year out where he's going to be a starter. It's like having Tyrod Taylor on your team. He knows I wasn't drafted to be a starter. I was drafted to be what Chase Daniel did for all those years, collecting checks. So I start Drake May, and like I said, I would expect to start him every single week unless he can't go. But I'd try to get him some weapons. Yeah, break the seal. You got to see it through, and I think you just should, or at least have a real. If you're gonna start Jacoby Brissett, have a cutoff. Like after week 8, it's Drake Mays for the rest, because you're gonna be 2-6 after 8 games anyway. Best case scenario. I'm not even looking at the schedule. I'm just talking about just one game. You're gonna get it. Somebody's gonna fumble you a game. Someone's gonna pick 6 you a game. It's gonna be a punt return. It's gonna be one of those games where you get 21 points and 14 is gonna be off a guy fumbling the kickoff because the new kickoff system that they're gonna implement, which I'm just already infuriated about. I don't even want to talk about it.
Well, you ready to do this real quick?
All right.
Before we get out of here, okay, here we go. At Cincinnati, Seattle, at the Jets, at the 49ers, Miami, Houston, Jacksonville, Jets, at Tennessee, at Chicago, Rams, at Miami, Colts, bye week in week 14, at Arizona, at Buffalo, Chargers, Buffalo.
It can go 0-17. That wouldn't surprise me.
They really could. And honestly, I don't want to do the spoiler alert thing, but I honestly, when I was going through my schedules and trying to do my stuff, it was hard, man. Like I almost ended up with Minnesota and Denver with 0 wins. Like it was hard out here in these streets to find those wins.
I think Minnesota, because they got
dynamic talent. To your point,
they have Justin's out there somewhere.
Well, one of them's out here, getting the DUIs and everything. So
they'll slap him on the wrist. He'll be fine. They'll get him a driver. He's good to go. He'll be open week 1. So they have that threat to where if you have Sam Darnold and you're in a back and forth game with Detroit or a back and forth game with Green Bay, he can get you. Justin Jefferson's going to get open multiple times, and he's going to be open for big plays 2 or 3 times a game. No one on New England's wide receiver core is going to be – it's going to guarantee you when he walks into the huddle, when they hear the play call, he can't look you in the face as a wide receiver and say, I can beat that guy. I'll be wide open. Devontae Adams, no matter who the quarterback is, can tell you when they call whatever stick left, Y banana, Z fly, Venus fly, whatever it is, he can look at the quarterback when they're breaking huddle and say, if this safety doesn't move, I'll be wide open over here. Look for me. I don't know if the New England wide receiver core has anyone on there that can say that with their chest 10 toes down.
Yeah, because I mean, even Denver has Cortland Sutton.
And he made some amazing catches for Russell Wilson.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. Like it's tough for me to see these wins, but just to wrap this up, I got it going like this. I got Miami at 11-6. I got Buffalo and the Jets at 9-8. So we're gonna get down to some kind of tiebreaker to get into the playoffs. And then I got New England at 4-13.
I would probably put the Jets under 5. I think I got them at 8 wins. I'm gonna give Buffalo 10 wins because, like I said, they have a dynamic person that will have the ball in their hands.
The word of the day.
Dynamic. Josh Allen is going to make something happen. And I think Keon Coleman I think he's going to be a breakout star. I'm not predicting rookie of the year, but I like him. I like his size. I like his work ethic. I like the fact that he hasn't brought up how many guys got drafted ahead of him. I hate wide receivers do that. It's like, listen, it happens to everybody. Everybody doesn't go first in their position. It's like most people are like third or fourth. Most of your stars are like second round, third round. Like there's some guys that got like I don't see Quentin Nelson going like, I know all the guys that had rated ahead of me pre-draft. It's like it's just so stupid and it's just juvenile. I like Tiger, wish he could. I like his personality. I think Macy should really howl at him. But I think that receiving core is gonna steal you a win, even when Josh Allen has they're having a bad game. They go into the fourth quarter and they're down 24-13 to even Miami. I think they still can pull out a 27-24 victory because of who they have with the ball in his hand all game long. Whereas I don't see that with New England, and I don't see that with the Jets. I don't see the Jets. I don't see the Jets walking into the but Q, everybody does it. Devontae Adams just did an interview with Shannon Sharp. He named all the guys got drafted ahead of him. I think Draymond does it.
Remember Isaiah Thomas did it because he was the last pick of Kyrie's draft.
Yeah, so it's like, we get it. Yeah, people got drafted ahead of you. Who cares? Who's doing more than you now? Like, I don't need that motivation anymore. I got these checks coming in. I want to be the best guy that's currently playing. I don't want to care about the draft. That happened 8-9 years ago. But I get it. Yeah, so like I said, with the Jets, just that whole Aaron Rodgers not being able to just galvanize the team from behind because they're going to be behind because they don't have they have to work it perfectly as well. They can't have a couple of guys be questionable going like on the offensive side, be questionable, week after week, or guys being game time decisions and being out. Like if Garrett Wilson's not playing, you can shut down the pass game against the Jets, no matter who they're playing. If you don't have Garrett Wilson, okay, I have nobody to double. So like that's the kind of stuff that I think that will hurt them. Whereas if Claypool can't go in Buffalo, or even if Waddle can't go in Miami, I think Miami still can run their track meet style offense without Waddle. Maybe not without Hill, but you have an opportunity to slide Waddle in the Hill spot and just kind of because you got to respect the speed. So that's why you double Tyreek Hill. It's not like he's like this amazing route runner. He's just so fast and gets in and out of his break so quick. And Jalen Waddle's the same way. So you would have the same kind of scheme for both of them. Whereas if you're losing Waddle, you just slide a guy in the slot, or you just hit HN and Mostert out of the backfield a little bit more. I think you could balance it out. With the Jets and New England, they need all of their pieces, and they need everybody working that. They need everybody to win their reps every play to be successful.
So you got Miami winning the division.
I got Miami winning the division. Looking at the schedule, they have an easy start. They don't have hardly any cold games, which seems to be their Achilles heel. And most of their tough games are at home. The cold weather opponents are coming to Miami versus playing all their cold games on the road in November and December.
Yeah, too bad for them. They still ain't going to get home field advantage. And but on that note, said thanks for the support. Thanks for joining us. Like, review, subscribe. Good night, Grandma. Go get your rest. I will rub your feet in the morning. We love you. Thank you. Peace.